I've already introduced myself, but for people who have joined just now, I'm Gorika. I'm a housewife. I like taking care of my kids. That's it.
All right. And you are from India at the moment.
Yeah, I'm from India, Delhi.
Yep. So the reason Gorika is in this panel discussion is because she's representing the majority of the citizens of the country. Yeah.
Yes.
And why don't you tell us the condition of of the city that you are in right now? You're in the capital of the country at this point.
Yeah, people are taking measures. They are doing social distancing. I've seen in my colony, nobody comes out. They are respecting what PM Modi says. They are doing what they can do. They are staying at home and staying safe.
So they are following the curfew that we have nationwide at the moment, going on for a couple of days. Rather, we have completed a week already, and it's on until the 14th of this month. We are hoping that the numbers would come down, but unfortunately, because at this particular time, just like any other part of the world, the numbers are increasing. Fortunately, it is lower than than US or than Australia, than any other country, though, any other first world country. Yeah. So, hi Gary, how are you? I'm so glad that you're a part of this conversation.
Oh, I'm fine. Our area is a very low risk. I live in a small town in the middle of the mountains between the coastal range and the Rockies, surrounded in forest and not much traffic.
Well,
it's very quiet.
Lucky you, seriously, because this is the perfect place. That is the perfect place to be at, at this particular time, anywhere in the world, rather. If you are in any country, you've got to be in a place like that. Hi, Sanchita, and hi, Salman. Thank you for joining in. So why don't you introduce yourself, Sanchita?
Hi everybody, I'm Sachita. I'm living here in Hyderabad. I'm an artist and an art therapist, and I also freelance as a marketing manager for a few brands here, and very pro cannabis. So that's why I think we're here today to talk about the.
Yes. So Sachita has been going out and about, campaigning for us as well. When I say us, campaigning for the plant. We all are representing the plant at the moment. And she has also used the plant whenever possible in her art therapies. So yes, from that point of view, it is very important for us. Sachita, we were talking about what's the condition at the moment in each city where we are. So why don't you tell me which part of the world you are in, and tell us the condition or the pandemic situation, basically.
Okay, so I'm in Hyderabad in India, and here we are in a lockdown, and mostly all the essential stores are open. Not everybody is out there on the road, but I'm one of those people who is out there on the road. I go feed the stray dogs and food and water. We yesterday installed some 15 to 20 cement bowls for dogs. So we've got one card so that we can show it to the police if we are ever caught. And because a lot of strays were dying, and there is obviously here there are a lot of village people who do not have the understanding of why social distancing is important. So we've noticed like people have made chalk circles so that people can stand in those circles when they're going for grocery shopping and stuff. But unfortunately, the people in villages don't understand the reason why social distancing is important. So they go and keep their bags in those circles, and then they go stand in groups. So now we've tried to have volunteers who will go and make them understand the reason behind social distancing. They're thinking that, okay, we're just supposed to stand like this. This is some new way of buying groceries, but that's not so. So that's that, and the cases have increased here also in the past week, and we are trying to take as many precautions as possible. Businesses are not working, people are getting laid off, and things like that. but hopefully we will come through this.
We will definitely come through all of this. I'm pretty sure at this particular time, just how you are helping so many mute out there. It takes a lot of courage to actually get out in a state of curfew to take care of animals of all, wherein, it's hard to find necessary items for your own self, essential goods for your own self. So hats off to
Yeah,
you
it's
for
kind
doing
of
that.
scary, when you go out these days. It's kind of scary. It feels as if you're doing something really illegal and you're out there on the road. You have to keep looking. Is there a police guy following you and all of that? But yeah, we are doing what we can.
Yeah, at this particular time, I'll prefer getting followed by a policeman than a normal citizen who is looking sick, not looking sick, doesn't matter. Just stay away, kind of a thing. So, hi, Salman, you are back again. I'm hoping that, the connection is better now. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you all,
Hi.
yes.
So, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us which part of the world you are in right now and what is the situation of the pandemic out there?
Yeah, hi all, I'm from Bangalore. Uh, so, as we all know, India is seeing a large amount of jump in numbers, and this is not scary, but it was accepted. We were all expecting this. So, the question of the day as we embarked on this meeting was as to how we can uh, release few pressure points or pressure points on this for this pandemic. So yesterday, Priya, uh, when I went to bed, I checked. I'm not wrong. The numbers were close to 2,400 here in India,
Yeah.
and we have not yet reached stage 3. We have not yet started on stage 3 or
Fingers
phase 3 of.
crossed for that. But the way the things are, we are kind of, as per the statistics are to believe, this week is very, very important for all of us to maintain that social distancing because the numbers increased because that was not maintained, right? So if the same is being done for this particular week, so we are hoping that we might not have that jump so soon. But still saying that 2000 under 2500 patients, in spite of the fact that the first patient in India was in the beginning of March, correct? So from that point to here, wherein we have people from Canada, we have people from the United States at the moment, and we three are from India. At this particular time, I think the best way forward is what India is doing, wherein we have spent about 1.5 months and we still have 2000 cases under 2500 wherein testing is happening, wherein people are being forced to go get tested if they have any kind of symptoms. So we are not running short of that. Having said that, the understanding is very important, and how to be, let's say, precaution is better than cure is something we always said, right? And here I want
This Yes, I mean, it was a very nice step what the Indian government did, but then I would say that it does not matter which government it is or who was in center. I mean, this is such a big task at hand. Then that I mean, we were not prepared. No one was prepared. No one in the world was prepared. We see police brutality. I don't think. I mean, I just heard the other speaker here talk about how she's afraid of police, and then how it's a task to just make something happen here these days because we need to go out. The reason is even the police is scared. The governments are scared. I mean, they want
Yeah,
it
I mean,
such
that is one
they
topic
want to
that,
superimpose
yeah.
themselves. Yes.
Yeah, so that is one topic wherein the police is getting beaten up to take precautionary measures to save us. That is not the conversation we want to have over here. Medical professionals are getting beaten up in India
That's true.
because
That's true.
there are illiterates all around who are basically beating them up when they are going to test them. Can you believe it? So medical
Yeah,
professionals
that
and
happens.
nurses are getting beaten up, in India at the moment because they are going and testing at this particular time. I'm so sorry for the dog, but yeah, this is what mountain
Very
life is.
natural.
Yeah, very
Very
natural. I'm
natural.
really sorry. So yeah, so basically at this particular time, because of those illiterates, we cannot do much about it. Having said that, we literate are over here to understand how can we take precautions or how can we actually work towards making a better medicine, right? Having said that, I wanted to highlight over here, all of you who have met me, we have worked together. You understand that Cannabis Health Index is something that I have even forced on, the Indian government to buy, so that they don't have to spend crores of money in researches, right? So the author of that very book is sitting out here with us, along with, a professional who has spent about 30 years in understanding what are the different aspects of the plants that can help us. So here we are with one plant, Vijaya, that all of us are representing. Vijaya is the Sanskrit name of cannabis. So can we all, figure out how cannabis, what is the role of cannabis right now in all of this, in the entire pandemic?
Hi, Dr. Gary. Hi, I saw you earlier on the phone. I mean, yesterday you were also discussing on a very nice topic as to how we can use cannabis for anti-inflammation property, and then I believe we also discussed on application of cannabis oil or extract or tincture on chest, so that it can then pass on to the chest muscles or pex muscles as we call, and then help in ease out the pain, help in ease out the inflammation, also help in relaxation of intercostal muscles indirectly, which will help
So I'm
breathing.
going to interrupt you
So
here. I am so sorry, Salman. You being a scientist, people don't understand these languages, and this panel discussion is for the main citizens of the India as well as the layman. So I'm going to pause you out there. I'm going to break this down in simpler language for all of us. Okay. Basically, cannabis is known to treat dry cough, high fever, relax muscles during body ache, and also reduce body ache, reduce the soreness of the throat, the itchiness of the throat. These are a very layman way of addressing the same pointers that you did, and you need to avoid, unfortunately, using those words because A, Sachita, B, Priya Mishra, C, Gorika, the three Devyas sitting over here are layman. We are arts and philosophy and the activists who are taking the cause further,
And
along
the
with the
main point,
citizens.
it relieves stress. That's the biggest point.
Yes. Anxiety, which is killing people more than the cause itself. Have you seen the number of suicide? What is the number? What is the ratio of suicide these days? Can you tell me, you and Gary, what's the number of suicide these days because of this pandemic?
Our I haven't been trying to keep track of our numbers. Certainly, they're going up in Canada. I think as far as the prevention of infection, one of the major ones is just to remain very healthy and, of course, maintain the social distancing. The endocannabinoid system itself is responsible for immunity. And I've been sort of checking out what factors affect the ability of the endocannabinoid system to control immunity. And one of the biggest ones that I think is deficient in a great many elderly people is the presence of calcium. Calcium is a cofactor in a lot of the synthetic processes within the endocannabinoid system, all the way down, through quite a lot of the synthetic pathways. And typically, elderly people are deficient in calcium. They're subject to osteoporosis, and they, of course, it's been years since they ever had a glass of milk, and it's just an interesting factor that nobody seems to be looking at. As far as cannabis itself is concerned, CBD is very good at overcoming at overcoming the inflammation, and THC is very good at bronchodilation. So these factors I think are all very important in in not only preventing an infection, but in helping to alleviate it once it started. And I don't know, what are some of you that people think about that?
I want to know your take on this, because you have written two different chapters, one on viral infections, the other on bacterial infections and cannabinoids, how they help. So what's your take on this? Dr. Blistering?
I'm sorry, what?
Dr. Blistering, what about you?
Yes.
Yeah, on the very same thing that no, the very same thing that Gary said, I would want you to take it forward, considering both of you have worked in the very same domain and researched on these kind of infections or cannabinoids and the diseases. So what's your take on what he said?
Well, if you consider this, take for example that the United States government actually holds a patent on a cough remedy that's based on cannabis. That should tell you quite a lot with regards to the amount of scientific evidence that we have that implicate specific cannabinoids in a number of underlying symptoms that are experienced when people come down with the corona types of viruses like COVID-19 right now. One of the things that has become very clear is the fact that THC is a potent bronchodilator, which means it opens up your lungs, especially when they're constricted by the increase of cytokines, which is basically a protein that collects around the affected tissue that becomes inflamed as a result of viral infections. And so one of the things that THC will do will open up your lungs. The other evidence that we do have is that both THC and CBD are able to produce immunosuppressive results, which is pretty important when COVID-19 progresses to the state where you have an overreaction of the body's immune system, causing what's called, or what's commonly referred to as a cytokine storm syndrome. Basically, your lungs get infected. White blood cells are being sent and being called upon to mitigate, to basically isolate the infected cells and to destroy them. And part of that process is that they call on cytokines. And cytokines are just proteins that help bring, for example, it opens up the vasculature. It brings blood to the infected tissue, but it also causes leakage of certain fluids, which then turns into edema, which turns into phlegm, which turns into swelling. And it becomes a cascading effect. It's almost like a vicious circle. White blood cells call on more cytokines, cytokines call on more white blood cells, and the body at that point becomes seriously overwhelmed. It can't keep up with all the mucus, with all the phlegm that's building up. And then there's no more room for inhalation and exhalation because everything is basically plugged up with mucus. And at that point, and this of course doesn't happen to everybody who gets a corona infection. In fact, 5 out of 6 people will have mild or moderate symptoms. But it's 1 out of 6 that gets sick, that severely develop severe symptoms, such as the ones I was just describing.
Yeah.
And when that happens, the only thing that can prolong survival and in that sense produce the hope of recovery is intubation and attachment to a ventilator, either a manual ventilator or an automatic ventilator, which right now there is a global shortage. I mean, if you take a 2,000 hospital bed I mean, a hospital that has 2,000 beds, they probably have 20 or 30 ICU beds that have these ventilators. So once the curve hits a peak, you tend to have a lot of those 1 out of 6 people that develop these severe symptoms, and they need to be on a ventilator. But if you have 30 beds out of 1,000 that you need, this is what's causing so many fatalities in Italy and Spain right now. They have a very good healthcare system there. Any healthcare system is not prepared for this amount of people who need to be on a ventilator. And so this is where working with cannabis can potentially, although it's been untested, so it's still a theory, can potentially mitigate the overwhelming onslaught of cytokine productions in the affected tissues. And because of its immunosuppressive effects, and that's true for both THC especially, but also for CBD. Now there is another compound that's commonly occurring in cannabis, and that's beta-caryophyllene, which is another compound that activates the endocannabinoid receptor, that's called a CB2 receptor, which produces its own anti-inflammatory actions. And here's what's interesting, especially to populations such as the Indian population, is because you cook with a lot of beautiful spices, and there are a great number of spices that are very rich in beta-caryophyllene. And so if you use turmeric, if you use bay leaf, if you use black pepper, all of these spices contain abundant amounts of beta-caryophyllene, which are anti-inflammatory in action. And they produce those actions by activating a cannabinoid receptor that is the same that THC binds to. That's the same mechanism that's being employed. And so even if you don't have access to cannabis.
So here is the funny part, and I want to add it, for all of you. India has a lot of cannabis. Okay. Now, tell me, Gaurika, Salman, Sachita, does India have cannabis? And a lot of cannabis. Now the problem is, even at this particular time during pandemic, India can supply a massive amount of cannabis because it's widely grown. It's available on the mountains, it's available in the drainage of the mountains as well. Now the question is, if people like ourselves, and especially people like Salman, who has a biotech lab out here in India and has been working on tissue culture and more, are they up for taking a challenge like that in a very short period of time? Can we do something like this? Do we have systems?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, hi. I was going through a few of the studies here yesterday. We also discussed. I mean, no, it was not with you. I was discussing with one of my other colleague about. Colleague here about antivirals. Cannabis is antiviral. We've seen as how it cures HIV, and I would like to bring this to the table. We are here targeting the interferon gene, right? The interferon gene, which I should be very specific here, CD163 is the co-expression for this gene. So it goes in hand with the earlier topic which we had discussed. So when we target this interferon gene, that is, to be more specific, we are targeting the monocytes of the white blood cells. Here, by using cannabis, the end results which we've seen is, now I know that HIV is a retrovirus, means to say it fuses its own RNA, makes a copy of it into a DNA, and then fuses it with our gene, stays it with the human DNA for quite some time, replicates it along with human cells, and then all of a sudden it erupts. But this virus which we are dealing with is not a retrovirus. It does not require integration of itself into the host cell, with converting itself to a DNA and then double-stranded DNA.
Salman, pause. I want you to try and use little more language that at least I can understand. Even I can understand. Okay. So I would request you, even our viewers, probably a little slower, and also if you can try to break down the important words for us, just how Gary and you did. it will be a little more helpful so that we can make our notes.
Okay. Do you want me to tell you a little bit about interferon and retroviruses?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Interferon is the immune action of the body that is the first line of defense for an infection. It's endogenous, that means it's always there in the body, and anything that seems to be a threat will be targeted by interferon. And so it's a part of our normal immune system. And so it's controlled by the endocannabinoid system, which is common to all vertebrates and even in the plant world. A retrovirus is one which carries its hereditary factors as RNA instead of DNA. And so when it infects the cell, it has to penetrate the cell and it will divert the DNA of the cell into producing more viruses. The COVID virus has a fatty covering on the virus itself, which enables it to fuse with the fatty membranes of our cells, and that's how it achieves penetration. There is an enzyme which I would love to see some work on how to affect it, but there's an enzyme called reverse transcriptase, which enables the RNA to create DNA, which then is used as a template for creating more viruses. And I've tried to see whether there is any way of affecting reverse transcriptase, but I haven't really found it. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Yep, it does.
Okay. Anyway, that's just, a little bit of background, but provides no answers.
So now it does help. It definitely does help, especially for the people that we will be sharing, even with the government authorities at this particular time. Unfortunately, not all are health professionals over there, so they aren't well versed with technical terms, and it becomes a little easier when a professional says those things rather than an activist in a layman language. Now, from a citizen's point of view, a mother of two teenage boys, the one thing that everyone is so scared of, that our teenage boys and girls are going to go get addicted to cannabis during a pandemic time. Gaurika, I would want your take on this entire subject. Would you allow something like this, wherein the world is crying out loud, like the world is already stopped, we are facing so many issues, and this is also a ray of hope, in economics, as far as economy is concerned?
I'll tell you something. My kids are home. Actually, my kids are in hostel, but they're home because of the pandemics. And I have a plant at home, although it is not legal, but I have a plant and I have been giving them a leaf boiled in the milk every day. I give them so that they should be safe with the inflammatory and everything that cannabis does for us. They don't get anxiety or they don't get depressed sitting at home, as they live in the hostel and do so many activities. They are bound to sit at home for so many days. So I give them a little bit of a leaf boiled in the milk occasionally, not every day, but like twice a week or something like that.
So I
And
want to
my mother
highlight something over here, what Gaurika is saying. This used to be an ancient practice and is mentioned also all over in our cultural texts as well, that every night rather people used to prefer having their milk with either tulsi, that is basil, or cannabis leaf. They used to use it so that no stomach ache would be there, they would sleep better. And this is something that old people, when I say olden times, historically it is proven, in India it was a practice as well. So this is something, an ancient practice, which now is also being backed up by clinical trials. As you can see, there are scientists, there are doctors over here, and there are researchers out here who are spending a lot of personal time and money. So Salman has been researching on cannabis for the last 1+ year with his own resources, and has reached a point wherein he is trying to get certain permissions from the government so that they could allow him to research further on the medicinal front. Now, there is only so much one can do on an individual basis, even when they have, let's say, a biotech company or a tissue culture company. When it comes to these aspects, they need experienced lot, which you both are, one in US, one in Canada. So what's your take? Would you be available for consulting digitally if something like this gets approved by the Indian government, if Salman is ready to take it forward?
Yeah, I have no problem to share whatever knowledge I have. I often feel that it's inadequate, but because there is just so much that's unknown. But certainly, I'm willing to share any knowledge I have.
Yeah.
A question on
Dr.
the milk:
Gat,
is the milk whole milk that still has the fat in it?
Yes, because I've read somewhere that if you don't add a little fat, like I drink it in water, but I add a little butter with it so that the properties of the cannabis can be absorbed.
Yes, it's important to have fat in it.
Yeah, it is whole milk.
Yeah.
You make me proud, girl. Like you really do. I mean, that is something even I don't know. I haven't done that. I haven't added ghee or butter in my milk with cannabis leaf.
No,
So
I
yeah,
do
there
that.
is so much to learn.
In whole milk, you don't need to add butter or anything. In water, if you are infusing it, then you need to add some fat, some sort of fat. If you are taking milk, then it already has fat. So you don't need to add extra fat in milk.
Okay, now I have a question for Sachita. Now, considering that you do art therapy and you have, let's call them at the moment patients, right? Because they, in a manner, you're counseling them and you're guiding them back to, you're aligning them and balancing. Something that even cannabis does. So art is exactly what cannabis does, just in a, in a plant format, right? So what's your take, considering the suicide rates are really high at this particular time around the globe because of this, because of the anxiety and everything. So how do you think that this can help?
See, okay, so my family is very judgmental when it comes to using the plant. And I have tried to be very gutsy and have tried to take on it openly on social media also. But every time I'm asked to put down the post, how dare you put a post like that, and things of that manner have come to me, and I've been asked to take down posts a lot of times. But like on the secret, I do ask my people who come and consult me that they should, like, I don't tell them to go. I ask them to just make one joint, and you can use it for days together. Take one puff or two. You don't need to smoke the whole joint and pass out. Just take a puff or two. That helps a lot. So instead, like, even though my sister's so judgmental about all of this, I was at her place when the whole lockdown started, and I rolled a joint for her and two puffs, and she was laughing and she ate so much and everything else, and she still got that joint. It's been 2-3 weeks now. So, see, I have not yet started talking openly about it on my channels, and I'm strictly mostly using just art and how we can use all our five senses to align with us and then create something out of it. But obviously, when people are open to it, they come ask me, what can I do? Should I smoke? Should I not smoke? I tell them to use it in small quantities, just take a bomb shot or something, so that it eases everybody out. Like, in fact, like, since the pandemic has happened, I've also like smoked twice or thrice since it's happened. It's been 3 weeks now. So that's that. Like, it's extremely sad, but I'm still not very open about it because of the situations around me. Yeah.
I completely understand, and I want to highlight that smoking has been a very important part of Ayurveda as well. It is not dhumrpan, it is dhoompan. Basically, dhoom means smoke, pan means eating. So you're, you're inhaling the smoke, which is working like a medicine, going inside to the places where liquid or solid cannot go. So that's what gases are used for, right? So there are various methods that our ancestors have made a note of, including the smoking method as well. Now, in this particular scenario, uh, I am aware of 6 states in India right now who have medical cannabis legal. Unfortunately, even they have not listed it as an essential good right now, and I completely understand that. Even though in US, DEA is allowing pot shops to stay open. I mean, they were the biggest, let's just call them the opposition or enemy, a very respectable word for the, for cannabis. And today they are standing over there to make sure that there is no ruckus outside those shops and they can, they can run normally. So in this particular scenario, I'm coming back to the same bit, wherein how soon can we actually come out with something like this if we have those resources? We have multiple types of strains in India in abundance, even at this particular time, as we talk, unadulterated as well, because these are the things, as per the statistics, India is the second number as far as cannabis consuming is concerned. Delhi, where Gorika is the top 3 cities of the world, into an illegal cannabis consumption. So in this scenario, is it possible to digitally come up with, some kind of medicine which can control the symptoms, the effects of COVID-19? Also, if not, can at least strengthen us so that we don't catch such kind of viruses, you know? Is it possible to even work on that right now?
It is possible, yes, provided we get some kind of what can I say? Some kind of a permission from the government,
Permission, basically heads up
because
from the government
yes,
and involvement of them, right?
yes, yes,
But you are all
yes, yes.
equipped, you're all ready, Salman, to go about it and get all the guidance from, the mentors sitting out here. Certainly, whatever I have been able to do is only because of these two. And I am, looking forward to add at least 10 states before this year end. We have 2 more states in India coming up. It was supposed to be announced during this time, but because of the pandemic, it has been delayed, right? So hopefully, we have something really good in store. Now, the last bit that I want to wrap up the meeting with, is I want a minute from each one of you to talk about your current and future plans related to cannabis. Yep. So starting with Gary.
Okay. The company that I work with is called MedCan Pharma, and we cultivate and extract medical cannabis in Colombia. We are presently getting ready to ship our first crop, so we're just getting off the ground. We're not set up yet to do extractions. The extraction from this crop will be third party, but by the end of 2020, we will have extraction facilities in place, and we have an export license to send to any country in the world who can legally import. And we will do whole spectrum extracts as well as purified extracts.
Great.
For me, I have a background in food processing, starting originally in the dairy industry and then in the wine industry, but broader than that into foods in general, which includes a lot of microbiology, a lot of biochemistry, a lot of ordinary chemistry. And so I've had to extend that and go into a very steep learning curve to learn all of the biochemistry of the endocannabinoid system, which didn't even exist when I was a student, let alone the not only the endocannabinoid system, but the epigenetic system and a whole lot of these things that that in the last few years have been brand new to me. And so sometimes I feel like I'm back in grad school. But anyway, that's what I do, and that's who I am.
It's a good feeling, right? I mean, every day is a new learning with cannabis, like every damn day. Day before yesterday, I think so, I read that a company in Texas has actually sent a patent for coronavirus related medicines, called Kali extracts. And I did share the link with Gary and with Salman. And I was just wondering that, yes, it has reached from there to this point, and I'm hoping that, it will move forward. What about you, you, Dr. Blistering? What about you? What are you currently doing? What are your future plans related to cannabis? And is India one of them?
I would love that. It's always fun to collaborate with kindred spirits, especially if it has to do with bringing forward the promise that the plant has been holding for since ancient times. And I'm working with the two partners right now. We're just about to launch an app and a data bank that allows people such as yourselves to get a hold of or get a handle on the science that underlies all of these wonderful things that the plant can do for us. And so that's what we've been working on, because it's one of the biggest problems is how do you manage 30,000 studies that are published on PubMed or on search engines that contain them in a way that's meaningful to patients where the rubber meets the road, if you will. How do we extract the most important information out of all these data so that it becomes really important for somebody with arthritis? What type of cannabis constituents do they need and is most effective to mitigate their symptoms? And so that process has always become very difficult. Even for physicians, it's very difficult because it's such a challenge to get a handle on it. And so we wanted to solve this problem. And that's what we're working on, and it should be launched by next month. I'll let you know all about it.
Yay,
Wonderful.
great. And how about the healing with cannabis?
Healing with Cannabis, was my first book, and it's my love child. And I'm working on more books. In fact, I'm working on a white paper right now, looking at in support of more research for cannabinoid-based therapeutics in the treatment of coronavirus. And as soon as I have it finished, it's annotated. So, for those who want to go for a deep dive, I will send you a copy, and you can read it as to your heart's content.
Thank you so much, definitely. And now,
My
Salman.
pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm pretty sure Salman would love to get some of the materials that that you have been researching on, because he has spent a lot of time, doing his own research. And it's really heartwarming to see that even though with limited permissions, with limited, guidance and mentoring before he connected with a lot of us, he has gone ahead and he has reached a point which definitely can make India proud in less than a month. It's just that we are stuck at a permission, there. So how about Salman, now you tell us what are your current things so that, they know exactly what you're doing?
Off lately, since this lockdown has happened, I have shifted my focus towards understanding more of how the genetic engineering behind this virus. So as of now, to include cannabis, in this is something new. I've not done that so far, but then it is very promising. As we discussed about some interferon genes. I have some other a few other things at mind as well, which I would require some help on. We're talking about Fin gene here, PYHIN gene. This gene is also closely related to the cytokine protein. So to treat this virus as such, I do not think we can proceed as of now. Cannabis, I don't think is proven to do that. But as we discussed earlier, to deal with the symptoms of it, that is to deal with breathing problems and to alleviate the pain which patients are having. I mean, I would definitely want to work on this with cannabis, with cannabis, so that, I mean, this is something which we can do. If the government permits us, we can make tinctures of that. I mean, it's pretty easy to extract a full spectrum oil, and then right away applications and testing can be started. But the problem is, how do we approach, and to whom do we approach at this
That
point
is
of time?
something that,
Wherein,
that is something that's my department. You don't worry about that. Just how we have
yeah,
been successful with 6 states, we will continue doing that. But this panel discussion was mainly for us also to connect you, probably in, to Dr. Blistering as well. And obviously, you've been in touch with Gary on this one. And
Dr. Gary,
hopefully, when
yes,
you all work together, this will act the missing link that even they are looking for to give that permission. So there is a missing link out here, and I'm hoping that this panel discussion is going to bring us all closer on this front, so that we can come out with a conclusion sooner than later in this current scenario. How about you, Sachita? What are you currently doing and aiming to do in the future, which involves cannabis in a manner?
So the biggest step I think is being here on this panel today to discuss as to how, because I remember I told you I shared one post of yours and people came back to me in my DMs slamming that no, when you're using weed, your immune system goes down and this and that, and then people are telling me why are you spreading such fake news and whatnot. So yes, more fact-based research and
They have not
talking
seen the
more about
dimension
how it
where you
helps.
exist right now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, because I'm surrounded, maybe this is for the good, but I'm surrounded with people who judge the plant, and maybe I'm surrounded with people who judge the plant so that we all can convert them. And hopefully we get to I'm looking at making a lot of art around it, because a lot of people who follow me on social media and stuff are following me for the art. So if we take it from that angle, maybe people who don't know anything about it but look at it from an art perspective, and then I can get their attention from there to talking about it, as to how the plant helps us in various dimensions of our life. So hopefully I get to do that in the coming days and talk more openly about it and get it from that negative light to the positive light, and not just these chursies who are sitting in a corner and doing
Art
drugs.
helps a lot to
Not that.
normalize anything, and certainly
Yeah.
something like cannabis, art is going to be, like a weapon which will help us normalize. There is only so much that data, there's only so much that statistics, or there's only so much that numbers attract people. It is the
Yeah.
creativity and the art which really attracts them, right? So I'm hoping, yeah. So I'm hoping that your art will help us normalize this plant. And Gorika, so you've been like a force of energy for me in the capital of the country as well, and you did assist me during the Delhi Technical University event as
Yes,
well, right?
right.
Considering you understand kids more than, better than I do, seriously, they can get really curious about something like cannabis. When you are dealing with college kids, all they want to understand is how many joints would not make them infertile. So these kind of questions or these kind of things is something that I feel comes only with when you have handled kids, or you've handled people like that. So what are your plans in the coming future or right now related to cannabis? How are you
I
looking to, you know
Yeah, I think the problem in our society is less awareness. Everybody have a myth that if we smoke, we'll have health problems. They don't understand we are smoking cannabis. But cannabis is not about smoking. Nothing like that. You can make infuse cannabis with so many things. You can make cookies, you can make cakes, you can make butter, you can make so many things.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a housewife, I'm a cook. So I experiment with so many things to make people understand that smoking is not about cannabis, or cannabis is not only about smoking and getting high.
Gorika makes
It
one of the
has,
most amazing cannabis leaf tea. That is one thing that she makes, one of the most
yeah.
amazing cannabis leaf teas.
And being in a joint family, a very conservative mother-in-law. She was having an operation, but because of this shutdown, her operation is postponed. But her knees are paining so much. I give her cannabis every day, and she's like, "ये दवाई अच्छी है. This herb is very nice," in her language. ये औषधि बहुत अच्छी है जो तू मुझे दे रही है, because it helps in relieving pain. I can't give her painkillers every day throughout this lockdown because it will affect her kidney and other organs. So I'm giving her this tea every day. She has less pain. She is happy. She's not irritated. And same way with my husband. He was an alcoholic. Now he doesn't drink. He was violent. He was very aggressive. He was always angry. But now he's always laughing. He's happy. He has switched. Like he's flipped. And this is the awareness I'm spreading among my relatives. I started from my home because I've experienced it. Then only I can tell people.
Yeah.
So I started with my relatives, my mother, my father, my mother-in-law, my cousins. I have started awareing them so that they can spread the awareness more.
Yeah, that is the key,
like
doing it. Yes, doing it where you are, because you can't have darkness under, the candle itself. In Hindi, we have a saying, Diya tale andhera, which is basically having darkness under the candle itself. That is a sad part. So that is the first step to go about it. The reason I stepped out is I want to show you guys the place which we are creating right now for medicinal herbs research. And I'm hoping to welcome all of you once the world starts moving again. And I'm really hoping that's going to be soon. We've been working on this, and my target was August 2020 to at least have one big conference, including the Indian government. We have support from them wherein they are hopefully going to be, when I say Indian government, I'm talking about certain states which have medicinal and industrial cannabis legal. They are very keen to do these conferences. So I'm hoping to invite all of you to places like this. So this is where we are right now. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That's fresh snow for you. Yeah. So I'm hoping, you guys would come. So we have just started digging for the personal farm. There are farms all around us. And most of them actually grow herbs. They actually grow local herbs, Himalayan herbs. So we are at the foothills of, this is the foothills of Himalaya itself. This is where, Himalayas start. So we have the best of both the worlds. I'm hoping that we will be able to combine all of this together and take medical cannabis to different heights in India soon. Yeah.
Yay, I like it.
Lovely.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that you guys are going to be in touch with Salman, because he really, really needs some assistance in, that missing link, as I said. The researches which are already done in your countries could help us to legalize it over here in a manner which can be immediate. So if, first world country assists the second world country, in that manner, we can go faster with that.
Yeah, feel free to reach out anytime, Salman, or any of you, if you want to.
Thank you.
So
Thank you so much.
has all my contact information.
Yes, and I'm gonna be sharing it with all of you. Hopefully that once the new book is out, we all will be waiting for the signed copy. Yeah, hopefully in India itself. Yeah, cool.
Yes.
So namaste.
I would like to extend that invitation to British Columbia.
Oh yeah.
We're not in the foothills.
Yes.
We're on a high plateau.
Yes.
And we're between what they call the Cascade Mountains in the United States. We call them the coastal range. That's to our west, and to the east is the Rocky Mountains.
Mm-hmm.
So we're about midway. We're about midway between Vancouver and Calgary, if that means anything to you.
I might take you up on that,
That
Gary.
is something that I am definitely going to take up. Trust me. I am definitely going to take that up. Once I have touched the 10 states target in India of legalizing, I am going to be stepping out of the country for some research and definitely coming to you first, Gary. That's for sure. Because I have so much to learn from you, from all of you for that matter of fact. Yeah.
And with that, we are going to conclude this panel discussion. I am going to share all the details, contact details with each one of you so that you can stay in touch with each other. If there are any questions, please feel free to reach out to me as well. But I'm hoping whoever I had to connect, they are going to take things further. Yeah. Thank you
Right.
and namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You
Okay.
all. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you all.
Likewise.
Nice knowing you all.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.